Right, my brother. Finally, before I get to the viewers, let's deal with the racial dynamics of this whole
Mm,
situation. Yeah.
mm.
Because well, in fact, I'm not going to put anything on it. Just give us an overview of the racial dynamics and how that feeds into what is taking place in Sudan.
Sure. So I actually did my master's thesis dissertation on this topic.
Right,
Um,
right,
I called it Arab Identity in Sudan, the
right.
colonial legacy in the post-colonial present. Yeah.
Interesting. For those who
Uh,
are just to say, brother Ahmed, for those who are just joining us, earlier, brother Ahmed was careful to say that part of this conflict was by people who self-identify as Arab,
mm,
right? So if you were listening keenly, you would have caught that he said that, yeah. So I'm just pointing that
mm.
out for people that are just joining us. Go ahead, brother Ahmed. Sorry for the interruption.
Yes. Yeah. So what I tried to argue in my dissertation, I'm sure you've read this book. I'm going to the name by Joy D. Groy Leary,
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Post-Traumatic Slave Syndrome.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
Um, so what I tried to argue in my thesis is
mm-hmm.
that Sudan is suffering from post-traumatic slave syndrome. Yeah,
Okay. Okay.
as a collective.
Okay.
And so the real quick overview, as quick as I can,
Yes, go ahead.
was before the Anglo-Egyptian rule in Sudan.
Mm-hmm.
It was the Ottoman Egyptian rule in Sudan.
Yeah.
Yeah. So a guy by the name of Ali,
Mm-hmm.
viceroy of Albanian viceroy for the Ottoman Empire,
Mm-hmm.
he colonized Sudan
Mm-hmm.
and wrote in his memoirs
Mm-hmm.
that he wanted to get a black army, an
Mm-hmm.
exclusively black army. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And he was told at the time the blackest people in the planet are in South
Right.
Sudan. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Um, um, so then he began,
Which is
his
facts, though. By the way, that's just facts. You know what I mean?
yeah, 100%. Beautifully
Yeah.
black,
Yeah.
beautifully
Yeah.
blue black.
Beautifully black. Beautifully black. Right.
Um, so he went on his voyage to South Sudan, but because of the terrain, it was a bit difficult. Managed
Yeah.
to So then he managed to recruit Northerners in helping him in the slave raids in South Sudan. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
to capture these South Sudanese people because they're more familiar with the terrain, etc. Give them
Mm-hmm.
to the viceroy of the Ottoman Empire, Muhammad Ali.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the for a slave army, there just wasn't
Mm-hmm.
enough slaves.
Right.
Yeah, so it became we'll then enslave anybody who's not Muslim. Yeah,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and then it was, oh, we still don't have enough slaves.
Right. Right.
Yeah, so then
Mm-hmm.
it was, we'll enslave anyone who's non-Arab,
Right. Right. Right.
non-Arab, even if they're Muslim. Yeah, which
Right.
obviously is against Islam.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so this began this process of everyone
Yeah.
self-identifying as Arab as a
Right.
form of
Arab.
protection. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
then it became this. I know you've got it in the Caribbean. I've been to
Yeah.
Jamaica and I've been to Grenada.
Yep.
When everyone's always talking about my so and so ancestor is Indian
Yep.
and
Yep.
all this type
Yep.
of stuff, and you go through
Yep.
the family tree and ain't no Indians there, or there's
Absolutely.
very there's it's
There's very
overstated.
few. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
overstated.
100%.
Yeah. So
Mm-hmm.
there became this process of overstating Arab genealogy.
Mm-hmm.
My great great grandfather came
Mm-hmm.
from Yemen. My
Yeah.
great great grandmother was from Saudi Arabia, and so on. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So this legacy of not wanting to be enslaved
Mm-hmm.
is basically persisted through the British came, saw these
Mm-hmm.
racial stratifications, and
Yep.
played with them. Yeah.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And then the same with in Rwanda. They were like, oh well, these so-called Arabs are better for
Yeah.
administrative jobs. We'll
Shrubs.
train them up to govern our colonial state.
Yep.
And then these so-called Arabs are the people that should be in charge
Yep.
post-independent.
Yep.
So then it became this thing of a status. Your status is dependent on how how great your claim is to
Yes,
Arab
yes.
identity.
Yep.
So much so, probably my family not going to be happy with me saying this, but my mom and dad,
Yeah,
when they were about to get married, apparently one of my mom's uncles was like,
yeah.
"Why are you marrying this Abid, this slave?"
Mm, mhm,
Yeah,
mhm,
because obviously
mhm,
my dad's of a darker hue.
mhm,
His family has links in Darfur, so
mhm.
this is how prominent
Right.
all of this is. Yeah,
Yeah.
um, and obviously there's no civil rights movement or not an effective one. So the
Mhm.
racism is. This is why um, I've, I get really annoyed when you see Sudanese people from the north living in the west and they're dropping the N word. I don't use the N word at all.
Right,
Yeah,
right, right,
I
right,
think to use the N word without even exploring the contradiction in the country
right.
that you come
Come
from.
from right.
Just seems like
Take your
clout
point.
chasing.
Take your
Just seems
point.
like
Take
clout chasing at best.
yeah,
So I'm
yeah,
saying
yeah.
you're happy
Mhm.
to drop the N word, this, but then you're happy to step into the
Right.
privilege you get
Uh,
from
yeah, yeah,
being
yeah,
a self-identified.
yeah,
And the self-identified Arab isn't based on complexion; it's
yeah.
based on features. Yeah,
Right. Mhm,
you could get someone
mhm.
that's as dark as our brother John Garang, and he'll be
Yes.
identifying himself as an Arab.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah, yeah.
you get
Mhm,
someone that's light skinned, but he
mhm,
has stronger African features.
mhm,
He will not be seen as Arab. So
mhm.
it's all to do with texture of hair. You already know the stuff without me going into it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mhm,
But the good thing that's come from the diaspora is it really has broken a lot of this stuff down, because
mhm.
when you go to the UK, when you go to the US, you get stopped by the police. All of a sudden you realize, yeah, I am an Abid. What? And so people, it's really helped to. It's more now prevalent in the older generations than it is in the
Yeah.
younger generations. But yeah,
Right.
that's the whole. So when the to the question earlier, I am not an Arab and I reject that identity with all of my
Right.
being, and I always get offended.
Right.
I speak Arabic, but I'm
Yep.
not an Arab. Yeah,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
the same way someone in Senegal speaks French, but he's not
Yep.
French.
Yep.
Um, so whenever I'm in, I meet someone from the Arab world. They go, "Oh, you're Arab," and I say, "No, I'm not Arab. I'm
Mhm,
Sudanese."
mhm,
Yeah,
mhm.
but it doesn't mean the categorization of Arab and non-Arab isn't still very effective.
Yep.
So the wars that have happened in Sudan have basically
Yep.
happened between the northern self-identifying Arab elites
Mhm.
versus the quote unquote black African groups in
Mhm.
the periphery. So
Yep.
not only in South Sudan, but also the blackest people on the planet will be in the Nuba Mountains in Sudan,
Yes.
Blue
Yep.
Nile in Sudan,
Mhm.
and places like Kordofan in Sudan.
Yep.
So these people have all been discriminated against
Yep. Yep.
based on this legacy of Ottoman and British rule.
Well, brother, that's a beautiful breakdown, and I would love to read your thesis, your PhD. Did you say
Yeah.
PhD or masters?
Masters. Yeah,
Masters. Yeah.
yeah,
So we have to say this is we're speaking to Doctor Ahmed Kaballo.
yeah.
Right, I know, exactly. That's who we're speaking to on the subject, and I'll say this because coming from a strong like black nationalist inclination, very sensitive to the racial dynamics of what is taking place in Sudan from a long time
Mm,
ago, and the narrative was that there's a group of Arabs who are oppressing black people in Sudan. All right,
mm,
but then you learn more, and then you realize, well, actually, these are, as you identify, people who are identifying as Arab. Yeah, and
mm,
you learn a bit more of the history. And another thing that we evolution that we went through was the idea. So in Western propaganda, it was portrayed as a Muslims attacking Christians. Yeah,
mm, mm,
where
mm,
so like the indigenous spiritual systems were never identified, right? And it was a brother from what is today South Sudan who said actually the majority of the South, yeah, it is actually practicing their indigenous religions, quote unquote, right? You know what I'm saying?
mm,
So there are Christians there. There's a lot of Christians there, but
yeah.
a significant amount of that is the indigenous. And then just to clarify, the issue as far as Darfur is concerned in this, because Darfur is in the north, yeah. But then a significant onslaught took place in Darfur. So what is the difference between Darfur and the rest, as far as the racial and cultural dynamic is concerned?
So Darfur, they're Muslim,
Yeah.
but they're considered non-Arab. The
Right.
majority, the
Mm-hmm.
Masalit
Mm-hmm.
tribe and the Four
Yep.
tribe, they're
Mm-hmm.
considered. So they've got more stronger features,
Yes.
uh, stronger hair.
Yes.
So they're considered non. But so just to go on, I'm seeing a few comments and people are
Mm-hmm.
saying, but you are Arab, Ahmed, and there are legitimate Arab tribes in Sudan, Ahmed. The issue
Mm-hmm.
with all of this is, firstly, it's based on a Western centric, rigid identity
Mm-hmm.
framework of what is
Mm-hmm.
African,
Of
which
what is Africa?
basically means everyone, Africans are people from Cameroon,
Mm-hmm.
Ghana,
Mm-hmm.
Nigeria, yeah,
And Congo. That's it. That's
and,
as far as you
and
go.
Congo, yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like, people that
Yeah.
and there's but not realizing we are genetically the
Mm-hmm.
most diverse continent on
Mm-hmm.
the planet.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
there's more because we are the original people.
Mm-hmm.
So if
Mm-hmm.
anyone understands how genealogy
It
works,
works. Yep.
something
That's
comes
right.
from the roots.
Mm-hmm.
It then
Yeah.
everyone comes from this one
Particularizes. Yeah.
person.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone comes from this one person. Everyone else comes from this one person. But these
Yeah.
two people,
Yeah.
there's genetic differences between them both,
Yeah.
and
Mm-hmm.
that makes the framework for the ancestral line.
Yeah.
So it's not to say. So where people say, "But you are Arab," what they mean by that is, oh, because you don't fit the rigid dogma that we've ascribed to your group. Because what? So is it? How far are we going to go with this? Are Ethiopians Arab? Are
Mm.
Eritreans Arab? Was Haile Selassie an Arab? You know what I'm saying?
Mm.
Like
Well,
speaking Arabic,
it's interesting that
speaking
you say
Arabic.
that. Because
Yeah.
I know the mentality of the person asking this question. So the idea of being Caucasian is something that is a feature, yeah, of
Mm,
the sojourn of our people in Ethiopia. You know what I'm
mm,
saying? So these are all things that we have to work out, brothers and sisters. It's a dynamic,
mm,
that we have to work out. But like I said, I give thanks for how you've broken this down, because I think it makes it clear for our people and the nuances, yeah, that are involved in this particular topic. We need to understand them properly, yes, and make judgments and decisions from there, brothers and sisters. But it's in scholastic and linguistic and not linguistic, anthropologic terms, they call it the true Negro hypothesis. Yeah.
mm,
So where now all of these designations were created by Europeans and colonial Europeans at that. So there was another question that was asked about whether the people of Sudan are Bantu, right? Bantu, legitimate terminology linguistically, but as a separate grouping ethnically, is not a thing, right? That
mm,
just what I'm saying. Like that's something that was created by Western anthropologists, British colonial anthropologists, yeah, to create a hierarchy between more and less civilized Africans. And it just so happens that some of us are caught up in that today and try to perpetuate those fallacies and impose
mm.
them on our people elsewhere. You know.
Yeah.
Do you have anything more to say on this before I go to the audience?
No, I remember we talked about this before about Somalis not identifying as black and um
That was a
uh
good video. I meant to do a breakdown of that. That was a very good video, by the
yeah,
way.
yeah.
Yeah, go
Shout out to
ahead, mate.
Content Over Everything for
Yes, sir.
filming that.
Yes, sir.
But since then I've had a few Somali trolls because in Sudan when men get married,
Yeah.
if your male cousin gets married, you put on male hinna. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
There's no
Mm-hmm.
patterns or nothing like that.
Right.
Yeah, but you do put on henna. It's
Right.
quite common in the Sudanese tradition.
Right.
In Somalis, Somali culture, you don't do that.
No, do that.
So
Right.
because I had henna on, because I'd just gone to a wedding, it's one of my
Okay.
they really lost their minds. What's this Somali with the nail? They went nuts. Anyway, they followed me on. for the next 10 videos. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
one thing
yeah.
that they kept saying to me was, why does this brother keep coming with these Bantu theories?
Right, right,
Which I
right,
get,
right.
which they mean is like Pan-Africanism
Yeah,
is a
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Bantu theory.
Theory. Yeah, yeah,
Uh,
yeah, yeah.
so it's something that we really need to address, and
Yes,
something
yes,
that some people just avoid for convenience. Let's just
yes,
unite, let's just unite. But
yes.
actually, it's if we're gonna have,
Has to be
uh,
addressed.
it has to be addressed.
It
It
has to be
has to be
addressed. I agree.
addressed.
I agree, my brother. I agree. Thank you for that, my brother.